What's up guys, it's Agent What If and I'm back again with another video. This is What If Deku was trained by Stain, the hero killer. So I pretty much made this one. I know it's been done before, but I've never actually tried to do it, so I just wanted to do it. Thank you guys so much for the 1,000 subscribers. We had our goal of 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. And let's keep it going. Let's keep the subscriptions going. Let's make it to whatever big number next. But I appreciate the support. I really do. I thank you guys for that. And without any further ado, let's get into this video. We start off with Izuku as his normal self, perfectly normal in canon, but before he ends up running into All Might. When Izuku was walking around having a pretty bad day, might I add, he decided to take the long way home because, well, he felt a little down. He kept walking until he ran into this substance. He didn't know what it was, but he kept walking. After a little while, he felt almost like someone was watching him, like he was being stared at. And when he turned around, nothing was there. He decided it must have been that he was tired from the walk, so he began to walk quicker. He kept feeling this feeling until he turned around and he saw the sludge villain. The sludge villain was saying, "Sorry kid, but I have to take your body." Izuku was about to be taken control of when All Might immediately fell from the sky, hitting the ground and punching the sludge villain away, splattering him into pieces. As All Might goes to collect all the pieces, Deku is just stunned from the fact that he almost got, well, pretty much kidnapped or body jacked. And also because he gets to see his favorite hero. All Might then, after picking up all of the pieces, looks over to Izuku and says, "Hi there, son. Are you okay?" And Izuku says, "Yes." And that's when All Might is a little weirded out by the fact that he's stuttering so much, but he figures he's just shocked, and he says, "Well, I must be going, but stay safe." And he begins to jump away when, just like in canon, Deku grabs his leg. Then all of the events of canon happen up until the point where it's around the time where Deku is asked All Might if he can be a hero even without a quirk. To this, All Might says no, but it's different from canon. All Might says no very harshly. Because in this canon, All Might had a friend who tried to be a hero and who actually ended up getting himself killed. And he's been trying to take care of his friend's wife and kids for the last long while, and he doesn't want that to happen to Izuku. So he tells him no, sternly, making sure he doesn't try, especially if he doesn't have a quirk. This crushes Izuku, really rips him down to have his favorite hero tell him that he'll never be a hero no matter how hard he tries. No matter what he does, he'll always be a failure, at least in his own eyes. Izuku decides he's had enough and he begins to walk away. All Might asks Izuku if he's going to tell anybody about his transformation, and Izuku just says no, lazily, with no energy. He continues walking. As Izuku starts thinking about everything that's happened, he wonders why it is exactly that he was the one who this had to happen to. And just in case this isn't like the actual events of the story, because I remember My Hero Academia, but not that well. I'm pretty sure that the sludge villain trying to take Bakugo happened after this point. So like, yeah. So then we skip to around like, I don't know, like a day later, and let's just say in the process, like normal, I think, when Izuku held on to the sludge villain, not the sludge villain, to All Might, he dropped the canister and it broke, right? So the sludge villain's back on the loose. Izuku's walking home from school again, but he has no energy this time. He's completely drained. Izuku continues walking, and he sees Bakugo getting taken over, and he sees none of the heroes doing anything about it. He was about to do something when he realized that All Might told him that he'd just get himself killed, that it wasn't worth it, that he would never be able to be a hero. Meanwhile, Stain was actually watching this entire event, and I'll explain why right now. Stain was actually watching this event because ever since a while ago, All Might's been slowing down in his taking care of villains. Stain, knowing that All Might must be hurt or something, being like the stalker that he is, because he really admired All Might. So, of course, he would be able to tell even the smallest differences in his attitude and his performance. So, he notices that something's wrong. So, he's on the prowl for All Might, trying to stop any villains that get in the way. That's when he sees this boy getting taken over, and he's waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Before he can, Izuku immediately breaks off running. He hops clean over the guardrails, getting past all of the other heroes, and they all tell him to turn back, he'll get himself killed. And Izuku doesn't know why he's doing this, and he even thinks to himself, why am I doing this? I'm gonna get myself killed. And that's when Izuku uses his backpack as a distraction to throw it in the sludge villain's face, distracting it for a good second. He pulls Bakugo and pulls him out of the sludge villain and pushes him to the side, using his own body as a shield. That's when the Stain dashes through quickly and slashes the sludge villain in half, chopping him into pieces, and then using his aura on him to make him scared so that he doesn't actually move. All of the other heroes and everyone else stop, and everything falls silent when they see that it's actually Stain. They don't know who Stain is yet, but they know that the aura he just released was deadly, was terrifying. So no one has the energy to say anything right now. Zuko's frozen in place as he looks at this person who seems to grow thousands of feet in front of him. And Stain puts his hand on his shoulder and he says, "You have chosen." And Izuku doesn't know how to respond, but he's shaking. And Stain then says, "I've chosen you to be my disciple." He whispers something in his ear and then leaves. None of the heroes move. Nothing happens. The sludge villain is still on the ground, shaking, as All Might finally arrives. All Might did notice, but it took a lot more out of him to explain to Deku this time because he went on a longer tangent and weirded himself out more. So yeah, that's why he couldn't actually come to try to save him or anything. Izuku falls to his knees as Bakugo starts yelling at him saying, "You stupid idiot, why did you try to save me? I didn't need your help." Izuku can't hear him though, as he's on his knees shaking at what he just did. He realizes that he's going to have to be a hero because even without thinking about it, he tried to save another person who hates him, another person he hates. He knew that his only way in life was to be a hero, that there was nothing else he could possibly do. Izuku remembered what Stain told him, and he remembered what he whispered in his ear. Izuku then decided that at that point he was going to become a hero. About a day later, he was at his house and he was leaving. School was officially over, right? This is around that 10-month gap in between. Izuku goes to the same beach that he did with All Might and Canon, but he goes there with Stain. Stain's waiting there, sitting on top of some garbage, just laying down, chilling. When he senses Deku's presence, he opens his eyes looking at Deku. Deku's a little bit scared, he's a little bit fidgety because he doesn't really like the look of this guy. He looks a little dangerous. And Stain hops down from the trash, landing easily, and he walks over to Izuku and puts his hand on his shoulder saying, "So you have chosen to be my disciple. A good choice." Izuku then says, you said I could be a hero?" And then Stain says, "I did, but the first thing we're going to have to fix is that stutter. You need to have confidence. If you're going to fight, you can't stutter." And Izuku then says, "What? How is that important?" Stain then says, "This is going to be longer than I thought. First lesson, listen to what I say and find the meaning under the meaning. Always look at everything more than just the way you originally saw it." What I meant by you can't stutter is you have to follow through. You have to be confident in your attacks. If you hesitate, your opponent won't. Ezekiel says, wait, you're going to train me? And Stain looks at him weirdly and says, what did you think I was going to do? Just make you a hero? That's not how it works. Second lesson, being anything takes training. So, we'll start training today. Ezekiel didn't know what he signed up for, but he'd soon find out. As over the next weeks, Ezekiel would be ran ragged with inhuman amounts of training, being broken down just so that Stain could build him up. Ezekiel would be running with the same weights that he did, like with the same trash on his back that he did with All Might, except this time he'd be going much further than just getting in shape. He'd be doing superhuman amounts of training designed to make him very, very fast. His agility and all of that would be off the charts, as Stain would make sure he trained his flexibility. Stain would train him a little bit in martial arts, but he didn't decide that it was that important, considering that Ezekiel, he had much more in the physical department that he needed to take care of first. About halfway in the 10-month training, Ezekiel had finished most of his training physically and could now do some pretty superhuman stuff. Ezekiel could easily lift up a person that was around his weight and throw them a good couple feet with just one hand. He was incredibly strong. His speed was even faster than Stain, being able to move extraordinarily quickly and close a 20 foot gap in a couple seconds before anyone could even realize. Ezekiel had become vastly superhuman in his training. His durability had went up as well, since Stain also taught him, not pain resistance, but he taught him to not acknowledge pain and ignore it to achieve his goals. He also taught him a couple of things medically, like how to identify broken ribs, broken bones, a punctured lung, all of those major things that could kill a person. How to put an arm back in place, how to break an arm. He taught him a lot of things. Now Ezekiel's hard part of his training. Ezekiel is panting after just doing his morning warm-up. He comes to Stain and he asks him what they're going to be doing today, more training, as Ezekiel started to like his training because he liked the results. That's when Stain jumped down saying, Ezekiel, what is step number 1? And Ezekiel then immediately falls in a formation, not really like in a formation like a salute or anything, but he starts reciting it like he's said it all his life. He says, always look behind what is normally said. Never look at anything at face value. Stain says, good. What does it look like I'm doing? Ezekiel then starts analyzing Stain. He starts realizing the situation and he looks at him. He notices that Stain put his weapons away and has his hands out, which is unusual for him since he carries his weapons to fight. Ezekiel wonders why that is, and Ezekiel starts thinking, I've completed my training. He's unarmed. We're gonna do martial arts. And that's when Stain smiles at him saying, good, you've picked up the lessons well. Ezekiel was also trained in how to be a detective and notice any subtle movements that his opponent would make or anything else. The only reason, and you might be like, well, if Ezekiel was trained to do that, why couldn't he realize that sooner? It's because Ezekiel lets down his guard around Stain because it's his teacher. So he doesn't he doesn't think he has to use those abilities around him. Ezekiel was not yet taught the ability that Stain has to instill fear. He was saving that one for last because it's a very hard technique to learn. He taught him how to sense presences already, so yes. Ezekiel is currently being taught hand-to-hand martial arts. Because of its increased physicality, he has faster reaction time, he has a better defense, and he's much stronger with his attacks. Stain actually trained him a little too well because he didn't know how to fight at all, but could almost dodge all of Stain's 25% punches, which most people couldn't dodge because those would be seen as just lightning. It would just be a flash and their face would just start hurting. Ezekiel and him were training for a little while, around 2 months. Because of Ezekiel's increased physicality, He didn't have a hard time picking up any of the martial arts, and because Izuku would still be training, Stain decided that training him in any more martial arts would be bad. Izuku wondered why he wasn't being trained and how to use weapons, but Stain pretty much told him, I taught you how to be a hero, yes? And Izuku says, yeah. And Stain says, heroes don't kill people. And then Izuku looks down saying, so you still don't consider yourself a hero? And Stain says, of course not. I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy who has to do what he has to do. But you're going to be a hero. The hero who does what he has to do, but is also a true hero. I believe in you. You're my heir. And that's when Izuku smiled at him, as Stain smiled back. Then that's when Stain proceeded to teach him about how to instill great fear. That ability that he does to make everyone around him tremble with fear no matter how strong they are. Stain begins to teach him. He says that the first couple of steps are easy, but it gets progressively harder the more you do it. You have to keep it under control. The ability to do this is by bringing up all of the hatred you currently possess and extending that hatred all around you in a wave. But you have to learn when it's too much, because if your hatred is too deep and too strong, you can actually end up putting people into shock with how scared they are, and that can actually kill them. Stain has done it a couple of times before, but of course he killed them on purpose because, well, yeah. Izuku was trying to learn how to do this, but Stain told him, look, it's better if I show you. You trust me, don't you, Izuku? And Izuku then nodded his head saying yes, and that's when Stain closed his eyes, and then he began to chuckle a bit, and he opened his eyes harshly as Izuku couldn't even move. He started to tremble with fear as he fell to his knees, and he started to crawl back, and that's when Izuku felt a relief when Stain stopped, and he says, When Stain made a mental note, Izuku could move. He's definitely got more powerful and more resistant. Maybe that's just because it's me and he's not as scared of me as most people are. Anyway, he put that to the side and he said, okay, Izuku, you felt it. How did it feel? Izuku said it felt vile. It felt scary. It felt like you were going to kill me. And that's when Stain said, that's what you need to emanate, that right there. Now that you have the specifics, you just need to do it. Izuku tried and tried and tried for a couple of weeks, but with no success. Stain was perfectly fine with Izuku not learning this if he never did, and didn't really have any problems with it because he still believed he was a great heir. Izuku continued training with this, and he found his trigger. He found when All Might told him that he'd never be a hero. In that one moment, Izuku had got angrier than he ever had in his entire life. He brought up that anger, and while Stain was sleeping on a bench away from Izuku while he was doing this training, Stain shot his eyes open as he jumped open and pulled out his swords and knives. He pulled out his sword and a knife as he got into a fighting position when he realized that Izuku was using his fear ability that it even affected Stain. His hatred was so deep that it woke Stain up. Stain noticed his hatred. Stain began to chuckle madly as he gripped his face, saying, he really is my heir. I chose a good one. Izuku honed it in and learned it better, and learned the ins and outs of it, and became a professional at it. With this, Stain told him that his training was officially over. His next step was to become a hero, and the best way to do that would be, well, UA. His skills would be wasted on any other school. Izuku nodding, tells his master goodbye as he continues to work. He'd come to see Stain soon enough, but not right now. The 10 months had been officially used, as the last few months, Izuku just used to hone his abilities further. His mother noticed a difference, but she never asked him why he was getting in better shape. She was just happy that Izuku wasn't as depressed as he was that one day with All Might. She didn't know it was with All Might, but she did know that her son came back more depressed than he was before. Izuku tried out for UA, and he went there for the exams. Izuku, being not only powerful but intelligent, was easily able to get high marks on the written exam. And all of the other exams, Izuku passed. If not, Izuku passed it while being in the top 10. Izuku doesn't have some specific abilities. He's more of a fighter, so that's why he passed in top 10. Izuku got to the practical exam. When the practical exam started, Izuku wondered what he was going to do. All things considered, Izuku didn't really have anything to use. He was going to have to use his hands, but luckily Momo was in his testing ground. When President Mike said start, Izuku noticed that Momo was sitting there, concentrating. And when she manifested a weapon, Izuku immediately realized that that was his ticket. Momo started moving forward using her weapon, and that's when Izuku just appeared before her. She didn't even notice him until he got right next to her. He asked her if she could make him a sword, and she said, sure, but why? And Izuku said, for the robots. She said, okay, and she made him a sword, and Izuku just went ham. He started slicing robots in half, clean in half, like with no resistance, even though these were metal robots. Izuku kept slicing them in half with his blade until he dulled it so much that it was almost broken. That was around the end of the exam. Aizawa noticed this kid's physicality, his physique. He looked like he'd been training for a long while, like he'd practiced. Aizawa knew that this kid would be a very good person to teach how to use his bindings because it would work for his style. After they had finished, Izuku got around 5th place in the number of robots he destroyed. He was late because he didn't actually have any weapons, so he couldn't do anything in this case, and it took some time to get Momo to make it, so yeah. After this, Izuku left and came back in around a week, and he was in UA. But with that, guys, I think I'm going to end this episode. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you guys really enjoyed this, make sure you like this video up, get it a whole bunch of likes so it can do well in the algorithm, and I'll make a part 2. So, yeah, without any further ado, peace.